This episode of Legacy Curious is brought to you by Legacy Protectors. Customize insurance strategies for business owners and families who aspire to create a lasting legacy. Hello there, and welcome to Legacy Curious, the show where we explore what it really means to protect, grow, and pass on everything you've worked so hard to build. I'm your host, David Gravelle, life insurance strategist, business legacy coach, and founder of Legacy Protectors. Here, every episode, I sit down with trailblazers, entrepreneurs, and everyday visionaries who are turning their values into lasting impact in business, in life, and across generations. Whether you're building a business, preparing for retirement, or simply thinking about what kind of legacy you want to leave behind, you're in the right place. Let's get curious and let's get to work building our legacy. Today's guest is Kris Black. Kris is the founder and chief systems architect at Araptus.com, where he builds performance-driven platforms that scale. Kris specializes in hybrid architecture using Astro.js to deliver blazing fast front ends powered by SSG and SSR, seamlessly integrated with WordPress, WooCommerce, and Shopify. Every build is engineered for conversion, speed, and long-term growth, whether he's deploying a Shopify-powered storefront, a headless WordPress blog, or a fully custom app. Kris often launches a production-ready site in under 14 hours that outrank and outperform bloated alternatives. With 18 plus years in the industry, he doesn't just build websites, he builds systems, infrastructure, and the tools to grow real businesses. Let's welcome our new technology expert contributor to the show. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Kris. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Hi. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We've had a couple of good spirited conversations as we were getting to know each other, so I'm glad you came on the show to talk to us today. And I want to just start by asking you to tell us a bit about yourself when you were a kid and where you grew up and what your life was like then.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kris Black. So life as a kid, I loved sports. I loved BMX racing. I think getting into bicycles was like a really, cool thing for my mind to discover how engineering really worked, because like when you're in bike racing, you got to worry about all the weight and gears and how you can shift.
It's a machine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
From there, my love and passion for science grew exponentially, because I was just obsessed with everything that was science related in engineering. And I can tell you, as a small child, like the first thing my parents gave me was a wood burner, and boy, was that a mistake.
It wasn't used for art exclusively?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, I was very artistic. So was the furniture.
Right. You were trying to make art out of everything that could burn.
Yeah, exactly. Expression is life.
Sure.
So after like discovering who I was and growing into my teenage years, I still stuck with the BMX stuff. I got into a little bit of like rollerblading. That was fun for a period of time. But like always trying to get involved with activities and hanging out with friends and family whenever I could. I'm very family oriented. Like when all of us get together, it's all about laughs and love. So yeah. In my 20s, trying to stay in school and go to college and do all that great stuff while dealing with ADHD. That's a tough one to do. I really came into my own, and I decided that I wanted to work with computers. But after like several pitfalls of like, okay, let's work on computers, let's build them, let's try to make gaming computers for people. I just realized I was like, this is not really profitable for me. So I went down the rabbit hole of building websites. I dated a girl and she needed a website, and I was like, let me just go learn how to do this real quick. So I hopped on online and started learning as much as I could. Was building really crappy websites back in like 2004.
Everybody was. So to be
Right?
fair to yourself,
The 90s.
Kris, what was it about technology that captured your imagination, or you found
Art.
yourself drawn to?
Art, like everything art. Like I loved mixed media art.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever experienced that, it's like you can just combine everything. You have digital art, you have painting, drawing, sketching. You just like mix everything together. I love that stuff. There's a lot of artists online on DeviantArt that I follow, and I love how they like take different ideas. There's this one guy, I think he's called the Human Element. And he mixes like Star Wars with Pokemon. You got like a giant Pokemon ball as the Death Star.
Yeah. And so when you were, I guess getting exposed to that, let's say in the early 2000s, what kind of software and what's that journey been like to start off with rudimentary tools, and 25 years later, kind of grew up with that part of the industry.
Right. Okay. So I started out in an internet cafe, and I loved playing video games whenever I could. But the internet cafes are not exactly cheap, so I ended up working there.
Okay. And for those in our audience that may not know what those are or remember them, tell us a bit about what went on there and why were they a thing? And not so much anymore, right?
The affordability of purchasing a gaming rig for the sole purpose of playing high-end games wasn't always affordable for people. So you had these businesses that came into existence, and they would share time on these machines that were very high performant, and you could play the latest video games, right? Those gaming machines are like somewhere between $1,500 to $2,500. Not every kid has that, and like the age range of like 15 to 25, you're not going to make that kind of money back then.
Right. Heck, so it was a necessity.
Gas.
Yeah, that's it, right? You just kind of follow your passion and go where you could get access to that technology in those games, and so you had to earn and able to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And fortunately, the people that own the business were also people that I went to high school with, and it was a really good in for me, and they gave me a lot of opportunities to learn networking, learn Windows, do system repairs, and then build gaming machines for clients and stuff. It was pretty cool.
It sounds like your first exposure to a family-owned or an individual-owned technology business as well, right? So you're sure you're learning something about, cash flow and how to manage, your business with new products coming out, new technology needed, trying to reinvest into the business. So you kind of learned on someone else's dime there, it sounds like.
Exactly, yeah. And it was a wonderful experience because I got to hang out with my friends, and then, we would have events where we could play video games all night, and good Lord.
Those are the days, right? So much nostalgia. Yeah, it was a different time. Those LAN parties were a thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you were physically in the same room, and that made a difference. I play with a friend of mine online now, and he is, 700 miles away. And so, we try and just get that connection, but when we're together, it's even, that's even more fun.
Yeah. It's bringing back the old days. I love it.
Yeah, right. So then what happens after that in your life? Where do you transition out of the cafe into a much more, let's say, business-centered type of technology support?
Absolutely. So after that, I'm building better websites. I've picked up WordPress, and I started really diving into the language of PHP and working with a framework called Laravel. I built a lot of businesses, and I got really active in the activist community, and I helped out with Indivisible. I built quite a few indivisible websites and activism websites.
Yeah, talk about that. Again, what drew you to that, and what were the unique needs of those organizations?
Right. Yeah. I would say what really drew me to that was my own discovery of politics and how I always, thought differently or against the grain of what was occurring. And I knew everyone needed a voice. My capabilities of building something to give those people a voice, I wanted to share with the world. Yeah. Right. And that's really when I came into my own being, because that's the moment when I realized that everybody deserves a podium, whether they're bringing a service or product to the market. I've figured out how to build people's dreams. And I solely focused on that and bettering myself so I could deliver a final product that was really great. After like many years of like figuring out how websites work, how to do a whole bunch of different things, I still maintain the first website I ever built. Yeah, and
well, share that URL with us.
That's orpbmx.com, and it's still running on WordPress. I've upgraded it over the years, but I still maintain it, and I make sure that it's got good traffic and it's still relevant. Especially it's for the owner; he hasn't had to change it at all, and he's just like, "I love it. It works."
Yeah, great. And so, would we call you a webmaster? Is that one of the titles that you hold?
Yeah, back then, yes.
Yeah.
To fast forward a little bit, when I started to get discovered by larger companies, I ended up working for a company called Clarity Ventures, and I spent 6 years with them as a software engineer. Yeah. So being a web developer, then software engineering, was a huge leap, because
and now that's more on the back end, right? So the web developers, like customer facing, interactive, and then the software developer is more things you don't see that are running the systems.
Yeah, I can say that, but to be more precise, engineering things is pretty much what you do the entire time. But I think as a web development person, you're just solely focused on creating the design and minimal functionality experience, right? Yeah. Whereas software engineering, you are constantly focusing on the solutions, creating the logic and functionality for every little thing that's occurring on the site. It's a much more in-depth understanding of how systems work too. For Clarity, I would work on the checkout experience, building the entire front end of the website. I was a front end engineer there, and I played around with back end engineering. But also I learned a lot of soft skills, and I learned how to teach people. Right. So that whole experience was really great for me, and
a lot of patience, right? I think that's one of the things that my own experience, because I've done similar work when I was a younger person, and it is just understanding that everyone sees and learns differently, and that's kind of the first lesson as a teacher you have to understand is you got to meet them where they're at and have patience. Exactly. Because not everyone sees the world the way you see or gathers and processes information. Right.
Yeah. It's very important to realize that. And because, I'm different from a lot of people, and right off the gate, the people realize that about me, how different I am, because I just have this different energy about me. And sometimes it's difficult to deal with that, some people won't like you for who you are. They'll just see you and be like, I don't like you.
I'll deal with that to some extent, I'm sure. Right.
Yeah.
And again, that's a great lesson for us to learn ourselves, is to kind of tamp down some of those initial thoughts. It's something that I challenge myself all the time, is to not take my first glance at someone as the truth about that person. So
right. Yeah, I would probably say the most important thing that I've learned from that experience is if someone has a judgmental perspective on you, just don't interact, don't act, don't react to the situation.
Right.
Just keep moving forward, focus on what you need to be doing, and things will correct themselves,
I think so too.
Yeah. Like you can't focus or dwell on those particular things, and you just have to keep bettering yourself. Yeah.
Okay. And so serving your clients in that way, what brought you to starting your own business doing that? Sounds like you were working for others for a while and having success there. What was that journey like to realize that you want to be an entrepreneur and, follow your heart and dreams in that way?
Well, I certainly didn't like the corporate world. I mean, who does?
Right. On the way in, a lot of people do. I'll tell you that. My experience on the way in is different looking back. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. I can tell you the stress levels have dropped 100% since I started working for myself. I manage my own time, my own money, my own experience. I can maintain more patience with people that need more patience, and I can lend my time to other people too. And that's what I've been doing, is I've been helping other people build their businesses, whether it's like they need my expertise or they just need to hang out and just listen to a couple of things that, I can point them in the right direction. Sure. Especially with AI, it's really changed the game. But I would say that whole experience of coming out of that, I say that I learned what not to do from those situations, right? And I primarily point to the examples in technology, but that technology back then has changed since. So as companies either deal with technical debt or they're using the latest and greatest things, you can make the better decisions going forward, right? For me, I saw huge issues in the software, and the amount of technical debt that was there for that particular company, you couldn't get past it, right? When you have something so complex, so huge, you got to deal with the gorilla in the room and figure out.
You're a slave to that. Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah, it's an anchor sometimes.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to do my own thing. I've always known if you're going to be someone, do something, and make a substantial amount of money and help people, you have to be out on your own. You can't be underneath somebody. Right. So that was always my intent. I've always owned this domain as long as I can remember. And it wasn't until the last couple of years where I really set it into a position of power and developing all of my own tools.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about your domain. Share that with our audience. It'll be in the description, of course, and we'll get to some more of that. But tell us that story.
Sure. My company is Araptus.com. I coined the name from the movie Dune. I was sitting in front of the TV watching it when I was like 20 years old, and I was like, I have to come up with a name for my company. And I really loved the movie. We're talking about the older one from like 1979 or something, or that's it. And I heard, Arrakis, planet Arrakis. Right. And I was like, I'm just going to change a couple letters in this, and that's my idea, right? So that's where I came up with the name. And then I found out that also there's a bark beetle. That's its scientific name. Okay. And I was like, well, this is my only competition. Let's just go with it. This is probably before I realized that might not have been the greatest idea, but we're going with it.
You're going to try and claim it yourself.
Yeah. So I've owned the domain since 2008. And I've always had like website stuff up on it that I build websites, but it wasn't until like
a demo site, right? You're just using that to show some of your capabilities.
It was basic advertisement, like I'm a Houston web developer or whatever, right? But it wasn't until like the last 2 years where I was like, I'm building a monster.
You sure are. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
encourage our audience to go there. Tell us what they'll find when they get there and what they can't miss.
You will find the most performant website you will ever see.
That was the first thing that I noticed, Kristen. You drew attention to that when we first met, and I could tell you it is the fastest performing website I've been
Yeah.
on. Like, I couldn't tell you one that can compete with it. So
Thank you.
that was the first thing I noticed. What else about it is kind of
What
unique
else?
about you?
It's a massive website where I'm doing blogging. I'm talking about tech. I'm talking about security. I also have built this crazy thing. It's called a modular landing page, where I've been able to index a lot of location-based pages, and I can just plop in a city and it'll create 10 pages for me. Um, I'm using static site generation. The software is Astro, and I've built an entire framework inside of Astro to really make it my own. And that's pretty much the only thing that I deploy. I've also built integrations for Shopify, WooCommerce, WordPress, Wix, and those are my products. But essentially, my parent website is the product because I've made it so modular that I can just take a config file and take your company and some about documentation and just redo the config, and voila, we have a new company website for you.
Right. So that fast turnaround based off of, 25 plus years of hard work and dedication to kind of just, making a modular solution that's available to hopefully our audience members. Again, you're talking to business owners, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Who they, not necessarily technology savvy, but they know they need a solution. They know that it's important for their business to be successful in that space in order to drive other successes. So what's engaging with you look like? Where would you start? Where would they find you? And then what's the process look like, Kris?
So right now I'm really doing a lot of alignable presentations and talking to other business owners. It's really been great for me. I would say I'm trying to be everywhere. As a business entrepreneur, you need to have a public face anywhere you can, so you can at least meet that one person that either needs help or has the budget to build something bigger, right? And I try to work with anyone that has a budget for that. Even if you don't really have the budget, like let's say, okay, you have a website. It's like a WordPress website, and you don't know everything, but you need a software developer to hop in, help you out, and point out some things. I hop on, I let them buy me for a day, right? If they're ready for a better experience where they don't have to manage things, and then I can take care of every asset that you can think of. Then I can jump in, deploy a website quickly. I use AI to develop the content. Then I iterate over that with you until we have it perfect. I'm using project management software to keep in constant communication with the clients and making sure that the tasks are up to date and they're sent to me and then they're completed. And like that whole process is, I'm trying to make it an easier situation for the client, because I have experienced some pretty terrible situations where, said, whatever it is, we won't talk about that, but I try to make it enjoyable. I know what's going on. I know how to get people found, and I can build something that works, and it's a really great solution.
Yeah, and we're gonna have you back on in the future to teach us some things. One of the first times we got together, you taught me how to help my business on Google Business, and that was new information to me as someone who thinks they're tech savvy and that I'm chasing down all the social media platforms and doing all the right things. And so that was one area that was blind to me. And so I'm going to ask you to help our audience kind of identify all the areas that they need to be working in, and then help us do those things, some of those things, but also be able to reach out and ask the professionals like yourself in an educated way, because right now I feel like myself and other entrepreneurs just don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're just kind of blind to some of that. So
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll come back and share some of that with us.
Absolutely.
And in the meantime, Kris, let's get to the final question here that we like to, have our guests answer is, what kind of legacy are you building? What would you want to be remembered for when you sit down and think of, your time here that you're spending on Earth? What is the message that you'd want to be leaving behind?
I think the greatest point of what I'm trying to share with people is everyone needs patience, right? I said that I build people's dreams, but ultimately I'm delivering an experience for people, and I make it enjoyable. And I use all of my professional skills to pull something together. So you, as the person that are trying to direct, or should I say steer your life in whatever direction, you can accomplish that, right? I also, the future of Araptus, I would love to be in the space where I'm making sure that every website is secure. I've built in a lot of security into my website, and it's pretty wild. I hope I get to that space. But for the time being, the legacy is I'm a person that really wanted to help people. I wanted to make sure that everyone that I met that I thought were worth my time, they got to get a level up.
Well, great. Well, thank you for that work. I appreciate, and that's why I have you here. I appreciate you, and your commitment and service to others is a message that I resonates with me, and I want to support and promote those people. So thank you for doing that. I think it's noble work, and I really appreciate you joining us today, and look forward to having you back on as our recurring tech guru for entrepreneurs, to make sure that we're getting the answers we need and doing the work in our tech space that'll help our businesses be successful. So thanks for joining us, Kris.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you to our listeners and audience for spending time with us today on Legacy Curious. I hope this conversation gave you some insight, encouragement, or just that little spark you needed to keep you moving forward in your own legacy journey. If you got value from today's episode, please take a second to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone else who's building something that matters. And if you're ready to take that next step, protecting your business, planning for retirement, or passing on your legacy with purpose, head to legacyprotectors.life to schedule a conversation. Until next time, I'm your host, David Gravelle, reminding you to stay curious, stay committed, and keep building something worth passing on.